Some people have a negative experience when they speak to a line manager, and it's often when a performance issue or an attendance issue has come to light in the manager's eyes, and they're speaking to the person in line with attendance policy or in terms with performance or an annual performance review, and give examples of non-performance. A person comes back later and says, I need to tell you, what's sitting behind this.
We got to a point where my performance dipped hugely all of a sudden, and I had been performing quite highly. I'd done very, very well. I got a big bonus, and people had been commenting, don't quite know how you've been doing all of this. And it'd been a great year. And then all of a sudden my performance really went downhill. And my boss, to her internal credit, called it out. So the first thing we did was to sit down and talk about the fact that my performance was not where it normally was.
The manager needs to sit back and say, I've got this information. Where does this sit? Where does this sit within my obligations in relation to a duty of care to that employee? What policies do we have as an organisation? What support services do we have as an organisation that I should be familiar with, but I'm maybe not familiar with? So where do I go for that information?
She gently asked whether I'd seen a doctor or anything like that. I did the classic middle-aged male high achiever, well, I don't need to see a doctor, blah, blah, blah. So we agreed that we needed to keep a close eye on various things. And we actually agreed that she would put me on quite a tight rein, which for a pretty senior manager at the time, with very clear responsibilities and expectation to get on with, it's unusual, but it worked for me because I was definitely struggling with the procrastination and actually hitting deadlines.
I think sometimes managers being a bit, I'm in control, these are my decisions, isn't always helpful. Whereas if the manager, if you have a frank conversation, an open frank conversation, say, well, my issues are, we have to have this finished in 6 weeks. We have been given a budget of so many £1 million to get this done, and if it's not done, we will not be getting that £1 million again.
Instead, she made it my decision all the way through. It was never, I think you need to go to a doctor, I think you should sign yourself off. It was, how are you feeling? What are you doing? What's working for you? Are you comfortable with how this last 2 weeks gone? What do you think? And we took it from there.
My mum worked in HR, so when I had to go to the HR meeting with my old employer, she knew I was entitled to have someone with me, and I think she knew I needed someone there. I was just not in a state to be able to properly articulate myself or to put forward a cohesive case for myself. I was just too emotional, and I think that's something that people need to be more aware of. They don't have to go into these meetings alone and feel sort of bullied or to feel sort of pressured into something. They're entitled to take someone with them to help them and to stand up for them and to help them know their rights.
Where I don't think it works is if the expectation is all one way. So either the expectation is all that the business will benefit, or the expectation is all that it's got to be to the benefit of the individual. It can't be all of those things because it's got to be a relationship.
We need to dispel the myth with managers that this isn't something they have to deal with.
What I try to work quite hard on is that I don't use it as an excuse, or I'm not using it as a crutch, and that if my performance isn't where it should be because it's not good enough work I've done, that I own up to that and I'm honest about that with my boss or with my team. If there are some things that are happening, and one of the reasons might be linked to an anxiety phase or a depression phase, then we try and look at that and I can try and work that through.